Alright, so we've got some Rookie Rebellion 2. We should set up this way, because red for red. So we've got Tim's here at the top side of the map, having been a veteran of the Rookie Rebellion, playing in the first game. And now he's here in the second on Persia, so not out of the ordinary for him. He's been practicing a bit of Persia, and I'm pretty sure he played it last tournament. Up against Mason, who is returning. He's been playing on and off for a few years, I think, but never played PvP particularly heavy. He's played a little bit back in the day, and he's here on the Romans and the Red Trunks, so that project's less Civ in all its glory. Tim's and I actually practiced this matchup a little bit earlier, and then these guys ran into one another in Sparta just before this game. Not actually sure who won the prior game. So Mason's going for an early house here, but he's oh yeah, he's going to go storehouse now. So Tim's looks to be doing fairly standard double storehouse first, and in a way, like, this is quite greedy, but I like this because Mason's not going to punish this early, so Tim's can take this very forward hunt and fall back to a safer one later on. So in a way, it's a bit of a gift if you're both going to go for something quite passive like this. Mason's opening so far, not particularly meta by any means. Like, he's gone double storehouse, so very similar to Tim's, but he got that house in really early here, so players wouldn't really opt for this because it's really only just getting to about 16 pop now, and that's with 3 things in queue out of the TC. So going for the gold with a storehouse on that rather than a stone storehouse, which is what I'd expect Tim's to be going for. Instead, oh no, Tim's is going to go for the barracks. And he has got a stone storehouse, sorry. And he can look at going for a gold storehouse shortly. 2 villagers actually building that instead of 1, so he wants that quickly. Mason's already setting up to add a production building, but he hasn't really got any wood here. So Mason age up on the way. Tim's no age up yet. And he is getting the stone for the TC, so perhaps trying to do a little bit much here to start. Because, I mean, this is quite delayed. But I think both players have now realised neither is going to spear rush them, so Mason's aging and getting barracks units. So he'll be able to counter Spire because he'll be able to make legionaries. While Spire, just a real generalist sort of infantry. Good pierce armor relative to a lot of early game infantry, and a good health pool, but they don't have any real counter damage. Got a very low base damage compared to other infantry. So Mason's aged. Tim's is on the way. It looks like he's getting the resources for a TC behind this. He's got 11 wood gatherers. So Mason will be able to push back these Spire really quickly, but in a way Tim's has kind of baited this out of him, but he's not going to want to stick around and fight this. He's going to want to get out of here ASAP or he's going to lose Spire. But bearing in mind he's got Snare and Mason doesn't, so he can disengage with relative ease. So as long as he doesn't overstay, which I don't think he is there. Persia's got really nice cheap healing with aid 10. He's going to be able to get ranges. And this really just forces Mason to commit to a few infantry here. You get the auxiliary camp so he can counter any of the bowmen that Tim's will be making. Tim's is squeezing in that TC. So Mason right now getting age 2 ecotechs. At least 1 in pickaxe. And right now, Mason does have the chance to spend a little bit more on production buildings. Like if he cut all his gold gathering, he's over-gathered a bit of gold here, but he can make use of Spear Champ and cut all his gold gathering, get a bit more wood, commit to more production if he wants to stick to one town, which is what he's doing right now. Not gathering any gold at this point, so when you're in this situation, you really want to min-max getting your early production so you can push with 2 or 3 or 4 production buildings against, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 if your opponent's getting that quicker second town center. Otherwise, you're pretty much going to end up throwing the game away. Because as long as Tim's can gather enough food to produce out of the 2 town centers at once, his eco is going to basically grow at twice the rate. So Tim's opening with a bit more of a conventional, safe opening here that you'll see most high-level players do. Well, Mason, this is really quite aggressive, but it's not very optimized because he's gathering so much gold. At this point, he really probably should have 4 production buildings. And then he can really pull everyone off the wood back onto, you know, a lot of food, a lot of gold, a little bit of wood. So this is where things are a bit dangerous for Tim's. Right now, he's up on villagers, but down on overall population. So his army count is a hell of a lot smaller than Mason's. But Mason doesn't really have a huge eco to back this up. So assuming Tim's doesn't lose too many villagers here with this push, eventually Mason's going to have to back off here. Tim's isn't gathering any food, so he really needs to get some villagers onto the berries. Mason, in the meanwhile, needs to either start gathering some stone, I think, so he can commit to that second town center of his own, or just spend all this wood he's got, add a bit more production, and again, just try and equalize things so he can get all the way up to 60, 80, 100 population a little bit earlier than his opponent. You know, have a bigger death ball and then just pick his moment, go in and really gut Tim's eco. You can't leave it too long. I mean, in this case, Tim's isn't really gathering the food he needs to truly make full use of 2 TC at the moment. He's over gathering wood and gold himself at the moment. Could actually, yeah, just afford to put a couple more villagers onto the food. Let's have this hunt behind himself. But, I mean, he's got plenty of wood for more production buildings, so he's actually slightly ahead of Mason in that regard. He's now just caught up with that second Castellum in terms of just the effective, you know, production. Tim's can actually reintroduce some Spar here. I think now that he's got the bows, the Spar will be good just because it means there's something to frontline the shots from the slingers. Mason going for age 3 now. Really quick commitment to that. Tim's on that rear hunt. But Mason circling around because he wants to try and deal a bit of damage to it. Needs to be careful to avoid the town center fire here. Tim's only just seeing this now. Or does he notice? I don't know if he actually does, looking at the mini-map. So Mason's going to be able to hit all these villages up here. No one's actually on food, though. So Tim's eco production hasn't been great. He's only on 26 villages, even though he's had 2 TC. He really needs to get more villagers on that berries. Try and get on top of this other hunt here. Mason age 3 right now, but only 1 TC at the moment, so Tim's can defend this. He's in a lot better shape actually, because Mason spending on age 3 is nice. And these upgrades are going to be big, but he's going to have lost all the units that'll be benefiting from it. Mason will be able to clean up this Osabara, so Tim's hasn't really done enough to clean this up just yet. Mason's production. Let's start ramping up here, getting a lot of auxiliary camps. Getting some stone now. He wants to get second TC. And Tim's now enough food in the bank to actually start spending well. And you get more houses, which he's adding now. Population slightly favouring Tim's. Eco population slightly favouring Tim's. Mason still yet to add that third TC. Getting chisel now. It's at the stone. Second TC, but just getting the wood. And he's been top capped for a little bit here. So both these players just, I think, struggling with general macro when under a bit of pressure. I think being a tournament game as well, they're probably both playing a bit off compared to how they normally would as well. Just, you know, obviously for more experienced players, it's not such a problem. And in fact, you tend to play better under the pressure. But, you know, when you're sort of new to tournaments, and I guess that's sort of the point of these beginner ones, you can sort of go into your shell a bit, make mistakes, not just think clearly about, oh, okay, so he's pushed me off these resources, I need to gather them from here because I need X amount of villages at this point to just afford producing out of everything. Because at the end of the day, you know, having a lot of production is nice, but if you're not actually constantly training stuff out of it, you're falling behind. So Mason right now, 29 vills to Tim's 36. So Tim's is finally at the point where he can actually start maintaining double vill production, and he's still not. But he is getting age 3 now, actually. So, and he is up by about 9 villages at the moment. Armory on the way. Mason, no armory yet, getting second TC. Mason's got a lot of production. Doesn't have a lot of villages. Asabara able to get out of there. 28 to 28. So these vill counts are not great. He's trying to warm himself in, try and maybe get a market line or something established here, or at least just protect this gold mine, make himself hard to raid easily. Mason was trying to actually sort of quick wall the Asabara in there in a way, I think. He left a space open. So Mason adding a little bit more, but again struggling to not just stay housed. Tim's also housed at the moment, but he is doing a little bit better at making sure he's able to constantly produce. Getting temper now, so he's getting armory. Wheelbarrow for Tim's. For Mason, he's got his forum as well. I think he's taken the upgrade for cheaper and quicker training villages. The cell on there, but he hasn't actually finished it off. There's a big engagement going now. Tim's got a good death ball here. Not a huge amount of potential to push onto the town center. And now the rest of Mason's army catches up. So Tim's is going to have to be careful, because if this front line does get completely overwhelmed, then the slingers will actually eat up all the bowmen, particularly because he is under the town center, which is like a giant tower. Mason struggling for gold a bit here. He's got a bit in the bank. Tim's, he got a bit more rounded out, a bit more in the bank. 48 to 27 villages, so his eco in a lot better shape, but he just needs to produce a lot more right now. He's age 3, so he can start getting immortal camps. So if he adds, say, 2 of those and just gets some Asabara, or yeah, even just adding Spara and using champion bowmen. If your opponent has, you know, less stuff than you, even if they've got this sort of comp, in theory you are just going to pull it out ahead. Tim's does have armory upgrades as well, whereas I don't think Mason has started adding any armory upgrades just yet. So his units are not going to be as valuable. Probably could do with a storehouse here just to minimize a bit of walk time. I'm just going to try going for a bit of a raid. His third town center now. Patronage. So the second tier of upgrades here for auxiliary camp units. So further reducing their cost. He's going to take out that storehouse, but there's no villagers on it at the moment, so Very big loss to Mason there. Mason's struggling a bit for food. Tim's could also do with a bit more food at the moment. Now that he's got this third TC though, he's a bit more well established. He can start looking going for farms. He's got plenty of wood in the bank. A bit of gold too. I'm just going to try and go for age 4 perhaps. Mason right now. The army. But 37 vils to 52. He's still going to play a bit of catch up there on the eco. I'm going to add some armories. Tim's adding scale mail now. So he's got both his age 2 damage upgrades. And he's getting that age 2 melee armor. Mason is up. His armory's on the way, so he is behind a little bit with the upgrades. Tim's just chilling at the moment. Mason's population's actually really caught up quite a bit, and he's got a smaller eco, so his army is actually much bigger. Siege workshop here for Tim's. Who is he working towards age 4? Because he does need a lot more food and a bit more gold. So he might just be. Oh, here we go. He's just starting to really mass bowman now. And he does have that champion upgrade in queue there. And getting shield rim now. He needs to make sure he's got plenty to frontline this attack. Asparabar and Asabara could do with their champion upgrades, and Tim's does have the gold in the bank to spend on it. Mason, population, only just trailing Tim's, and when you're down by so much eco pop, pretty even for total pop, your army is just potentially really, really scary here. Both players just playing this safe. Mason hasn't quite finished walling himself off. There's just a little gap here at the back as well. Tim's quite an open base. Starting to get some farms, and he has taken plough, but hasn't quite got all his farming techs there, or a huge amount of farms even. Gordon had arrows on the way, so all his age 2 upgrades. So that's really playing it passively. They don't want to throw this game away, I think. So they're just going to sort of sit back for now. 64 vils to 44. So Tim's is going to pull ahead in terms of the gathering here, and he is getting Ekes now. So he's got a nice unit to frontline. With mostly legionaries, there's a few spears in the mix here for Mason, but let me mix it. So it was Mason getting the Ekes there. Asabara here for Tim's. The Ekes would be a nice addition as a front line here, because it's not just infantry up against these bows. And the Spyro don't truly counter them. There's no spears in the... Oh, there's only a couple of spears in the mix here for Tim's. The Asabara are going to take extra damage against the Ekes. There's no Immortals yet for Tim's. It's pretty interesting because they aren't really they aren't really pop effective. And compared to bows, they're just a lot better of a unit against anything, you know, other than basically bowman units or chariots, because their melee damage is insane. Like, they're a super soldier compared to like legionaries up close, and then from a distance they are a better bowman. Both players pushing out now. Oh no, Mason pushing out. Tim's just chilling, but Tim's ahead on total pop now, so I think he is safe to try and take an engagement, because he is up by 23 vils? No, sorry, 13 vils. And he's, yeah, ahead by 19 pop. So he's actually a little ahead in terms of army, because he is up on army techs. So Mason does have his ranged damage and armor at this point, but Tim's has got all his H2 techs. He's even going to try and flank with the Asabara. He needs to make sure he's not too slow with this. Mason's really going to try and stream forward with everything he's got, but he's finding himself sandwiched now. Can't get through the houses to get on top of the bowman, and now there's a lot of Asabara in the mix. They haven't got their champion upgrade, so they're not as strong as they potentially could be, and the legionaries are thinning out this Spire here, but there's just nothing left to back up the handful left standing, and they all fall. So it was a really good fight there for Tim's, not so good for Mason. Perhaps needed some more Ekes in the mix there. He even had some at home here that he could have brought with him. I mean, I think he needed probably more like 7 or 8 rather than 3 to really ward off the Asabara there. And, you know, I think he did need to have more armory upgrades to actually tank that fight and get through it. So Mason now, it's going to be tough. Oh, and in the meanwhile, Tim's is pushing with the Rams, and Mason's trying to take them out with the villagers, but there's just enough of them here. I think he might be able to take out the town center. Even if he doesn't, the wall-off hasn't been complete, so Tim's is going to be able to take out the town center. He is going to be able to kill off some slingers or some villagers here. And once again, Mason finds himself in an uncomfortable spot, sandwiched between the Persian soldiers. Tim's more age 3 upgrades finishing off. He's got melee armor, which is really handy to have against a civ like Romans, Norse or Celts. He's got ranged damage age 3 finishing. He's got finished. He's got melee damage age 3 finished now. Mason, nothing in the queue at the moment, but he can afford to produce a bit. But GG, he's opting to wave the white flag there, or the French flag, I should say. And yeah, going for single TC for Mason, in a way, almost worked just because Tim's really got stuck with his food income there, and his villager production. Considering it was 2 TC versus 1, Tim's, it took quite a bit for his second TC to actually pay off there. I think Tim's is right about that too, that Scorch probably could have helped as well, because they do trade well against all these non-cav units basically. But yeah, GG's guys. Ultimately, I think both players had a bit of a scrappy eco, but Tim's overall was a better build, and Mason wasn't able to punish him early for playing greedier. Although he did well initially, he was camping this hunt early on, and then Tim's didn't fall back to the back hunt. He was really, at times, only gathering from like 5 villages or 6 villages off the berries, when he's got the stables, a barracks, the 2 town centers, and a range to try and sustain there. So, GG guys.